just say, but we're better, so we should win.
Exactly.
And here he's saying, no, we're not better. We just work harder, which makes us better, which is a big mind shift.
Right.
Different double.
It brings up that topic we were talking about of mental fortitude of both of these teams and how these are two of the strongest in that area of gameplay that we have in the North American LCS. Right now, it's CLG who are going to be tested in that area to see if they can come back. Now they are on blue side, so TSM actually get to save their last pick, and they get to decide which counter pick they want to go for. The CLG are going to have to show early.
And we're really wondering who he is going to play, because they are put in such a tough situation. Aurelion Sol, potentially his best champion coming in, one of his top champions. They can't play that anymore. That tilts off the face of the planet lesser teams and lesser players. CLG have to be able to recover, and I really want to see who he plays.
Definitely curious. You know, he has had success on Cassiopeia, you know, taking that in the past. However, Bjergsen definitely willing to play counter picks into Cassiopeia and, you know, try and, you know, gank there as well to punish. The other thing is that questions arise about, you know, the rework to Ryze, who he used to have Ryze as one of his best champions. That was probably his best champion.
That was
much better than Aurelion Sol even. But the champion, that was reworked. And, you know, has he put time in on that? Because it actually opens up some really weird windows where the new Ryze is also actually a roaming champion with the new ultimate and can pull off some interesting plays.
Do they go as crazy as to now with the Echo Open, switch that around? We know Darshan has played it, we know who he has played it, but not seen it as much in the mid lately, obviously. A lot of options.
Yeah. Interesting final ban there with the Ashe that doesn't necessarily pinch the AD carries because you can still Sivir and Jhin. There's also Karma on the board if CLG wanted to get that very early on, and they do.
Very smart lock-in. See what the side of TSM does. A little bit of Huni love, as well as that heartfelt to Huni.
Yeah, while CLG have had success with the Karma, and while they, you know, have shown a focus on it, it really does break my heart whenever Aphromoo is not on one of those champions that he himself has the tools to create a play for the team. I mean, yes, he can protect people, he can speed them up, but it is going to mean that there's more pressure on the front line. Smithy and Darshan to be the ones, you know, to pick up that playmaking role for CLG if this is a support Karma. It very well could be shifted over to Hui, so, you know, still a flex pick, and that could be some of the mind games going into this champ select.
Smithy will still be taking the Gragas, what the guess would be. That Sivir Gnar picked up on the other side, so Haunter tries his hand at the Gnar here with the GP being banned out. We'll see what CLG continues to do here at picks 2 and 3.
Well, that Gragas, if they do lock it in, would fill that role very well as far as playmaking from the jungle. So it could be Smithy, you know, as the other guy on the team making a lot of the calls, especially in the early game. It is also good to have him on one of those playmaking champions, and that will probably be top lane Echo. But as you said, Riv, those are very much still flexible for them if they really feel like they need to.
Yeah, and CLG has the most flexibility. I mean, we talk about who he's champions, and I talked to him after MSI. He said his two favorite champs were Echo and Aurelion Sol. We've seen Echo in a few places. They could put the Karma bot, the Echo mid, or the Echo top. Like, really, TSM knows the champions they're playing against, but by no means do they know the configuration.
I definitely do love the Proto Belt Echo mid. So much burst potential, and he's extremely slippery as well. It's the kind of champion that he likes to play. He likes to play the style where he gets into the middle of the team fight. You know, he can try and target out a priority target, and then just pop his ultimate, you know, create space for the rest of the team, back out when he needs to.
CLG showing their final hand here in game 2, picking bans. Stixxay with his tried and true cover of Warwick. And it very well may be. We heard kind of the caveat to the Syndra pick was having global ultimates around. So GP is out, Syndra feels safe for Huhi, and the Caitlyn gets locked in for Stixxay.
So they do go with the Caitlyn, which, you know, both Stixxay and Doublelift are actually the two kind of Caitlyn players of the NALCS so far. And it does have, you know, some early pushing. You have that range advantage over Sivir. It's a really good matchup, you know, if you have the duo lanes. Karma plus Caitlyn should blast the Braum and Sivir. I mean, they shouldn't even let them get to the minion waves to start shoving that wave. We'll have to see what happens with the level 1, you know, who gets to the wave first. Can they get control of it and try and get to level 2? But I would assume that CLG are trying to go with you know, putting more emphasis on getting that first turret, you know, trying to bully out straight up in lane phase.
And I think that actually influences the final pick from TSM. When they throw in the Lissandra with the teleport, that's going to potentially punish CLG from pushing up, and they're going to try and stop them from cashing in on that incredibly strong dual lane that they've picked.
Both teams locked in. We see that is Darshan's Echo in the top lane. More carry potential for him after even having a rough season. Everybody on CLG really believing in themselves. We heard Darshan kind of talk about a lot of the things with the team weren't fixed because they were trying to fix the things behind that scene, behind the play. And now it seems like all those are fixed and the play is starting to come to fruition. We'll have to see. It's going to have to be strong here as TSM has momentum coming out of game 1. And Counter Logic Gaming here again looking to get that chance to defend their title. It means so much to them.
Yeah, TSM, they do have the momentum. They also do have the advantage in mobility as well as the extra teleport. You talk about that Lissandra, one of the biggest things is as you get later into the game, those teleports to the side lanes. And if you have Sivir Ultimate on your team as well, it really helps bring it all together, allowing the rest of your team to collapse on those plays and make sure that the timing for your teleports and your engages in the pincer movement actually do work out for the engagement.
All right, everybody at home, the doctor's office, wherever you are at the park, hanging out here in the studio, make sure you head over to Twitter, hashtag TSM win, hashtag CLG win. They need all the help they can get on both sides. The strength of the fans comes through. Manifest that power for the team you care about. It's going to be here for game 2 on the Rift. We'll see who gets that power from their fans.
Oh man, the early laning phase is going to be very important. Pre-level 6 even, how much pressure would CLG be able to put onto Doublelift and Biofrost? Doublelift and Biofrost statistically have been the best dual laning team in the NALCS, but they're in a very disadvantaged matchup, at least in the dual lane. So now it's also on the rest of the team to influence that side.
Plus, Stixa and Aframu, 2 versus 2 last game, killed Doublelift in lane just by themselves on that bottom side of the map. Even though they lost the game, that does do something for the mentality of the bottom lane. And with the players in this bottom lane, you know, Doublelift and Aframu, obviously longtime partners playing with each other. There's so much that goes into every iteration of this. Actually, with Stixa kind of graduating now, he's still freshman, but he's more senior than Biofrost, and now it's Doublelift that has the more rookie player on his team that he's been coaching. And this is honestly the biggest stage that Biofrost has played on with the team.
And Biofrost was wondering how he was going to do in the playoffs. Like, he's had a good regular season, but he even said he's a little worried he's going to choke. Like, he wonders how he's going to be able to stay in this.
Yeah.
Game 1, he played a champion. He hadn't even played on the LCS stage before, did just fine. And they need 2 more wins to advance to the finals.
It seems like it's always been that condition for Biofrost on the team. His first games with TSM on that Karma, flashing forward for initiations. They put a lot of confidence in him, and it seems to help and come through in his own play. Start off to see a very different mid lane here between Syndra and Alessandra from our previous one, so maybe a little bit more action between those two, as well as Huhi trying to keep control of Bjergsen for that TP.
Yeah, we talked so much about the dual lane matchup and how the rest of the map will influence that. Well, mid lane has 2 champions that are great at setting up ganks. Syndra onto Lissandra, if they can chain that with the Gragas stun, could be an early kill. A little bit harder to gank Huhi because of the cleanse, but if they get an early flash, it's another high kill pressure lane.
Definitely true. And look at all the opportunities for harassment for the Karma and Caitlyn lane. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about shoving them off of the wave. Aframu has landed every single Q so far on Karma. Stixa even was able to land the Peacemaker, even though he didn't get the godlike trade with Headshot, which you obviously always want. They were able to gain that control and push them under turret. Now we'll see how much harass you can actually get while the Sivir tries to CS.
Yeah, and this lane pressure also influences jungle pathing as well. Can Rek'Sai clear faster or can Xmithie clear faster? They're both level 3 right now, but they're actually both slow playing their clears. A lot of times when the dual lane is highly combative, you see a rush for the Scuttle Crab. That's actually not the case. CLG wards it instead.
And both of these junglers do have extra options for very creative jungle ganking paths. So even if they do get Scuttle Crab, Rek'Sai, and he's actually not even going for it. Haunter, though, going to take some damage, but they're actually moving up to claim the Scuttle Crab with the pushing bottom lane. One of the extra benefits of double range, Caitlyn Karma into something short like Sivir and Braum. They can even double down on those objectives that you talk about, make sure that there's going to be no influence from the rec side. And if you are Svenskeren, it's so scary to go gank that lane because Karma and Caitlyn should be chunking out, getting constant harass on the duo, and you have to be sure there's no counter gank there.
Now, one final thing about that duo lane as well is it's all on Doublelift and Biofrost to keep the lane even, because if they're not dying and if the pressure that they have attained from being pushed in doesn't translate into Svenskeren getting heavily counter jungled or anything, then it's actually a large win. So far, it's actually been a win, and Svenskeren is going for Darshan.
He wants to keep him out of the parallel convergence. Actually, it's the flash out. Very nicely done. Darshan still has his phase dive for lane, but he's going to have to play a little bit safer.
So much value out of that gank from Svenskeren. That took him maybe 5 seconds out of his way because he was going to travel up to Krugs to clear that anyway. So it's a very efficient gank. Just pass right through, get an instant flash, and then go right back to farming on the rec side. Doesn't lose any time at all. Now Darshan has to play a little bit more cautiously. And you were setting up before, how can the other lanes affect that bottom lane as well? Top lane priority is definitely going to be a thing, as Darshan also had to use his teleport to get back to lane. Now Hauntzer has that advantage.
Incredibly even across the map to start things out. Set of junglers slow playing things a bit. Haven't seen each other too much. And Svenskeren was the first one to really put something on his plate. Looking at CS even across the board. Doublelift continue to farm under that turret. 6A, Peacemaker every time he can. Back to lane. And we'll see what they buy.
Yeah, it looks like it's recall. He's recalling on just enough gold for a BF sword for the Caitlyn.
And TSM, every time this Caitlyn Karma lane recalls, they have to have it in the back of their minds that it's a possibility to try and overload another side of the map. That's why one of the changes that I really like that I've been seeing in pro play recently is every recall, a dual lane will leave the fountain heading up mid lane and then make their choice 4 or 5 seconds later as to which lane they're going to head to, waiting till the last second to get as much information as possible. As you can see right now, CLG have opted to the top side. They are going to try and go for that, post 5 minutes overload on the top side.
And now TSM's going to have to adjust as quickly as possible. They're running out that side as well. They're saying they're on the way, but Svenskeren's not level 6 yet. Bjergsen might be able to TP. How quickly can they get there versus how quickly can CLG get the wave into the turret? Looks like TSM will be able to get there in time, but it was pretty close.
Again, this is the kind of suspected play from CLG. Uh-oh.
Slim escape by Bjergsen. Nicely played, though. Not allowing the stun to hit before he can take his claw.
And even though TSM do read that play, as we said, it's become sort of the expected play post 5 minutes whenever you see the enemy duo recall first. There is a couple of seconds lead that is earned by Darshan in the 1v1 lane because he got the recall a couple of seconds earlier. So it's this cascade of events where it's like a domino and 5 seconds here translates into 5 seconds on the other side of the map, and they keep on swapping back and forth.
Like CLG's aggression to kind of put damage on TSM has been tempered as well this game. Wow, nice fight back there. Biofrost with a good shield to stop the trade. It's going to cause a few potions to be popped. But things have slowed down across the board. Lanes once again being matched up instead of swapped. We'll see Doublelift continue to push this in.
Yeah, we talk about how Caitlyn shoves in Sivir and how it's a good matchup, but it's not a super easy matchup. Like, Sivir has ways in which to outplay. The burst from Sivir with an auto, a reset with the W, and a boomerang blade is really hard to match for almost any AD carry. So 6 has to make sure he doesn't take more trades like that.
Jungler invade here from CLG, though, as Smithy finds Sven.
Flash over the wall. That's just going to be Smithy pouring one out as they try to get him before the flash. But it's pressure now from CLG. I was saying it was tempered a bit, and they turn it on there.
I think Smithy tried to fit in that auto, actually, instead of going for the instant ult. Now Sven is waiting around to try and get this smite about to come up for both of them.
Haha, I'm still here. Nicely done.
Smithy did use his smite there as well, and Sven was able to get it right afterwards.
Oh, gets the flash because of the threat of Bjergsen taking the claw and flash ulting. Credit there to TSM for collapsing, and Smithy couldn't quite stick around. Probably shouldn't have tried to stick around for that Gromp steal.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta send a message at that point. You're ready to just try and take it.
Yeah, I mean, especially based on his itemization, sitting on about 1,000 gold. Like, Smithy had just been out on the map for a little bit too long. Probably just trying to press a little bit since they had lost that first game.
Show them that they're not afraid to keep going hard. Sean, pretty nice parallel convergence to keep himself safe, but Haunter is getting attacks in nicely. At least make it a hard time for Darshan.
Yeah, if Echo's not able to get the third proc there for the passive, then losing out on the trades as he tries to exit. Here goes Huhi though. Chunks him out. This is for lane presence. Uses it just for damage right there. Bjergsen not deterred, still has potions to chug, so he's just gonna chug right through those though.
Easy clear, pushes Huhi back up to his turret. This lane still staying very even. Like I said, CS at 10 for these guys. Relatively close, with or without that jungle pressure. And this time, Huhi now is going to be able to come back with blue. Bjergsen, this just becomes the wave clear lane. It makes me a little sad. Obviously, they're going to have big plays later, but it's the lane you always want to see kind of going hard.
Well, Riv, one of those big plays could come in the form of a teleport from
That's true. That's true. We're just above alts now, so we could see something big.
If that wave control, as you say, does go in Bjergsen's favor, then you always have to keep that in mind. There are a couple of deep wards for TSM on both side lanes. It's actually a very curious one that was placed by Haunter right in front of the turret. So if Darshan does push up, either top or bottom are opportunities. The top side is actually really far past that deep ward right now. They did not sweep. Yeah, that ward right there. Good job, observers.
Got him. He's going to hatch it. He'll just back on it.
So the ward will get them delays on the backs rather than a teleport opportunity. And Bio opts to stop the AD carry. So definitely some value out of that one.
It's going to mean, actually, Doublelift can get a decent amount of damage on this turret. I wonder if Stixxay's even going to go back now. Because if he does, that could actually be first turret for TSM. Notice how they're rotating over the jungler and the top laner. Ooh. This ward could have a big cascading effect.
You're absolutely right.
Top lane pressure here.
You can see Stixxay kind of second-guessing this. Is Aphromoo close enough to shield me and run out if he has the mantra? It's not going to happen. Power and numbers here for TSM.
This could be first turret.
Topside.
Could be first blood.
And I thought they were going to give this up. As I said, it's going to be a little crazy for the fight. Here comes Huhi over the wall. Oh, there's Peacemaker from downtown coming in from Stixxay. They're going to be able to turn this one around as TSM came in for sure on their aggression, and it got turned right on their head.
Not the first blood we expected there as they jump onto Aphromoo, but that's the power of the exhaust and the shielding from Karma, and Huhi with the clutch collapse.
Oh, they're not done yet. Bjergsen trying to get back to lane, and he does get out of his own jungle. Look at CLG going for the invade right after they win that skirmish. This is something that they actually have been punished for in the playoffs so far, is going for invades and staying a little too long after they get their first victory. But look at that. Good little adaptation. They only drop the wards and then leave after one camp. They're not going to be punished for overstaying in the TSM jungle as of yet. But that first turret is still available, Jat. First turret gold, definitely still a high priority. Here we go, though. They turn it around on Svenskeren as Huhi lands his stun, and then Stixxay.
Yeah, a little bit of desync in the coordination from TSM there. Svenskeren was taking the Gromp, whereas Bjergsen then saw Aphromoo for the kill. If they would have jumped on Aphromoo together, they'd probably kill him. But they weren't actually expecting to run into a Karma there. They were just prepping to dive, and Svenskeren was taking the Gromp in order to be efficient.
Yeah, all things taken into account, that was an incredibly risky thing for Aphromoo to do, but comes out on top. So you only can smile about it in the end. TSM were kind of figured out the same thing. They were reacting, like you said, to something they didn't know was going to happen. Here, Doublelift goes one-on-one with Darshan, but has the help from Biofrost. And Darshan says, I don't want to miss these minions, but he does anyways.
Recall delaying extravaganza going on left and right, everyone trying to interrupt each other's recalls. And it's so important, actually, in this swapping back and forth race, because every one of those recall interrupts buys you 10 or 15 seconds of tempo on that individual person.
Like this recent development as well, very intelligent for CLG. Even though the gold is very even, look at the advantage in wards. The CLG have moved up a lot of deep wards where they have defensive wards for pink wards in their own side. So TSM haven't been able to get the same sort of early alert on these swaps. You talk about extra 5 seconds or something, you know, there's no early vision to allow TSM to try and react quicker to CLG's moves, and that's why they've been, you know, maybe one or a half a step ahead. That being said, though, gold is slightly in TSM's favor as far as getting right into the actual combat.
Those moments of rotation have always seemed to kind of favor CLG. their upper hand, a little power play for them if they catch a team in lieu or in movement to the other position. So far, they've gotten Stixay a kill on that. He came out of that play with 2,500. So we'll see if they can play around him again. In these intense moments, they have looked to Stixay before.
Yep, and I still do have my eyes on the teleport of this Lissandra. Bjergsen, he would ideally like to get level 11 first, to have another level in the ultimate and really have a higher impact. But every ward you see, like that one placed in the side bush, is a possible teleport position where TSM could try and blow this game open.
Yeah, and notice how TSM is keeping the wards up as much as possible. There was a ward just like this in the top lane when Stixay and Aftermath were there, and that, in a sense, is kind of keeping CLG at bay. They have to curb their aggression. They can't use their exhausts and flashes until Bjergsen is either pressured out or no longer has teleport.
It's interesting the way I see it. TSM has adapted that. They can't really get their wards in, so we'll say even if we can get a minuscule of distance behind our opponent, we'll take that forward ward brush, and that's enough for us. Back to pretty much standard lanes now as Haunter returns to the top lane. Only a bit of CS lead for him, but pretty much even across the board from there. A much better game from CLG here to put themselves into a great mid game.
Yeah, I mean, we said this is... Ooh, maybe they fight over the floor kill? Nope. But yeah, this is why we're talking about CLG. They've actually practiced playing from behind and practiced coming back from deficits, both in-game and obviously within series as well. So holding up
a bunch during the LCS.
yeah, I mean,
kind of practice.
You talk about that, but honestly, a lot of the late season victories for CLG in series were 2-1 victories.
Well, they seem to make the right considerations. I guess once the win comes out throughout the season, to focus on this or that and not just try to make the gameplay better. Sometimes if you don't get that, it just fails.
And something that CLG did not get in the regular season were wins against TSM. Not able to get any games. Looking for the first one here to try and even up this series, as both of these teams have champions on them that have been in the finals before. And as Darshan said in the video before this game, they play just for the finals. Their eyes are on playing in the finals. They feel like that's where they belong, both of these teams.
Yeah, and in this game in particular, TSM is starting to get the lane pressure where it matters. Haunter is able to push back Darshan because he completed that frozen mount. That's probably going to make Darshan teleport back. The ult's back. That's actually really key because he needs to teleport to be able to still match a teleport to the bottom side. That was really critical that Darshan did that to get back to lane.
See if he can stay there. He's already chugging his corruption potion, and Haunter,
he didn't actually get to heal the full when he was on base because he wanted to make sure he could ult back in time.
Yeah, and Haunter is continuing to push him in and keep the pressure up there. Double pink wards are backing up Haunter's aggressive play right now. So we'll see if this move from CLG right now, they're again overloading the top side. We'll see if this plays out, because right now, first turret gold is on the line, and they have to do this quickly. TSM have not shoved their top side up, so CLG need to push very quickly if they want to make this work.
I'd say this should usually be that time. TSM takes Dragon, but Svenskaren's up here as well. Haunter's going to swipe him back, but still gets taken down.
It's a race.
Yep, they got the kill, but can they get the turret? TSM are on it. They have only got 2 people.
Yeah, the Sheen on the top side for Darshan here. He's going to be able to slap it a little bit harder. And it looks like they should be able to get it quite equally here on either side. Svenskaren's going to be forced to back. Can't even really Void Rush to the bottom to give help to the team, and they're going to trade him out.
Team that has put the most focus on the new objective of first turret gold. CLG, in their previous playoff series, they got first turret gold in 3 out of the 4 games, and they're going to be able to get it here in this game versus TSM as well. But again, TSM still slightly ahead in gold as they answer bottom a little bit later.
Even though CLG barely got that turret, since it was traded, it's just going to be the 400 extra gold. So the bonuses that CLG have gotten with the extra gold from First Blood, even the extra gold from first turret, still do not equal the gold in the game, in which they are now down, just because the farm from various members of TSM is higher.
Top side and jungle are really the main ones for TSM.
Now they can get Cloud Drake. So it's interesting how TSM are just continually able to farm out. Like, for how much Stixay and Afro were rotating around, they're going for Afro.
Whoa, belts over the wall. They should be able to get him in the final here. Tether onto Bjergsen to nullify the damage, then puts the shield out. Deja Vu and Afro not going down, and the fight being turned around. Biofrost is the next to get hit up, and now they look for Haunter and Svenskeren. Svenskeren slowed a little bit there. There's nice scatter the weak. Will they be able to take him down? Smithy tries to get the drink out. The slow's not there. The tunnel is found, but they are able to hit it. Huhi comes up huge, and CLG do it again.
Pretty big swing here for CLG. Woo! Yes, TSM do get the Drake, but CLG are going to get the map pressure. Mid turret going down.
Afromu once again looks like he's caught completely out, but they can't kill him, and then COD turned the fight around.
Funny how I'm like, oh, I hate it when Afromu's not on a champion that can create plays. Well, if I just walk over there and put my body in danger, play created.
Boom.
Uh-oh,
actually
actually,
something.
He's trying to cut him off.
Stick say he has both summoners.
Whoa,
doesn't even go for Afromu.
whoa. Trying to make a solo play here, but also buy time for the team. It may just matter. He belts forward as well. Helps with Haunter to get the kill, but they're able to priority focus Haunter. That's Afromu going down as he steps back in. Bjergsen's going to be the focus. Glacial Tomb to save himself, and will he go down? Oh, double it flashes out to return a kill. And they're able to keep Bjergsen alive. Somehow they turn this on CLG's head as they return the batting order just to fight.
TSM strike back very quickly there. And that's the Lissandra teleport in display there from Bjergsen. However, the difference between those two teamfight victories was that CLG got mid-turret after their victory, and TSM can't get any turrets after that victory. Well, maybe they can push up mid. No, the minion wave's too far up. So basically the difference is that turret.
Yeah, Bjergsen has the proto belt here, so his burst is very high. The flash ult by Haunter to get Stixay means Bjergsen can close that in. And then Afro is pretty low on the outside, but Huhi, he has his ultimate up here, so he wants to try and get Bjergsen great timing right here as CLG is able to get fully engaged, and that allows him to clean up a kill.
Yeah, Huhi definitely should not have ulted the Lissandra that has not used her ultimate yet, because Bjergsen is going to be able to use that anyway, and should have ulted double lift there to try and maybe get another kill. The other thing that I saw in that fight is that Afromu tried to play the mind game with Bjergsen of taking the claw and walking the other way, but Bjergsen's just like, okay, you're going to walk into me, I won't take my claw.
Yeah, and there was also a really slim margin in that fight. Like, they had just fought previously. So the cooldown of the Syndra ultimate and Lissandra ultimate, it depends on the itemization. Cooldown boots and an Abyssal Scepter for Bjergsen gives him a lot of cooldown reduction that who he may not have been expecting. So really slim margins in that last fight as these guys are trading really big blows.
It was crazy. Thought I was watching an LMQ game. Spawn and fight, keep going. Here we're gonna get more of that here out of this semifinal matchup. See Huhi cleaning up a bit of the blue buff as teams take a breather after all that aggression. Looking at where it came out in the kill board, Huhi and Bjergsen have 3 now after all that, and are able to complete 2 of their items, 2 core items for Bjergsen. Huhi's still trying to create that. Get a Rylai's on himself.
Yeah, he's gonna try and get a little bit of survivability, just because Bjergsen can get in so tight in these team fights and he doesn't want to get one shot.
Very interesting how the team fights are going to play out as well. Because CLG have completed Stixay's build of the Infinity Edge plus the Runons, he's actually spiking pretty early here, whereas Double Lift has the extra cooldown reduction. It's not going to be as much in combat power. However, Double Lift will get a lot more of those Sivir ultimates off with the extra cooldown reduction and trying to chase people down. However, Stixay can already pump out that Caitlyn damage if they keep him safe, and it's going to be a lot of more long-range kind of poke damage and zoning with the Syndra as well that Huhi's been pretty strong on thus far. So interesting little differences here for the team fights, as TSM are going to rely so much more on the speed and Bjergsen getting in there to start it off with the Lissandra.
Yeah, and a lot of pressure is going to be on Huhi to create the right opportunities in these fights, and it's going to be so difficult for him to get the right types of ultimates off of. You almost want to forget about ulting Bjergsen unless Bjergsen has already ulted someone else, and instead just try and be that huge amount of damage on a tank at the start of the fight, and then just spam AoE stuns throughout it to enable Stixay.
Get as many orbs on the ground as you can to get out your stun afterwards. And the other thing that's changed recently with Syndra, for people that weren't paying attention after the Mage updates, is that she can also pick more up with her W and throw those for a bigger spread of a stun as well. Smithy, though, exchanging with Sven as Afro is able to facilitate the escape.
Things are building once again. The tense or getting very tense, I should say. Both teams are kind of trying to figure out what the power is, where they can get in next, and this is where kind of mistakes are made when you take that wrong consideration.
Yeah, I mean, CLG, TSM have been fighting for over 5 years in League of Legends. And
tell me, Kobe.
What was it like in 4 years ago in 2000?
I like this accent you're doing, Jat. This is our new skin for Jat, Gentleman Jat skin.
Also, back in last split, CLG did the 1-3-1, which now TSM is employing in this match.
Jat will cast every 4th game in this voice.
But actually, the 1-3-1 is what TSM is doing this game with the double teleport, and since Huey had to bring cleanse, it changes the dynamic of the match. Like, CLG is a bit more group and team fighting, and TSM are the ones that want to get the teleport flanks in, so they're kind of playing CLG's old game against them here in the summer.
Exactly, this is what we talked about, setting up the speed and engage versus CLG's ability to keep their back line safe and firing. Syndra and Stixay here on the Caitlyn can both put out pretty consistent damage, and they also have the backline support of Aphromoo just trying to keep them safe. So that's why CLG are grouping up and flanking coming from TSM.
No teleport yet from Bjergsen. They actually...
They are pinging the wards that are possible for the teleport, but with the skirmish shield, you can speed right out.
Smart, you know, Bach there from TSM as they wave clear and earn themselves the objective without having to risk anything. Now they Sivir
to the Drake!
Down to the Drake. This is so much focus on objectives here from TSM. They're able to get the turret gold plus the Drake, really outplaying CLG with that speed that we talked about. Oh.
That's hype. Sivir just to get to the Drake faster. We already have Cloud. Just go faster, man.
Oh, let's go.
Who needs team fights?
Bjergsen going back. We've been talking about try not to ult this guy when he's got his ult up himself. Now he's got his Zanya's to mess with your mind even more. So the priority for him becomes so conditional now in the fights. And it's going to be very hard to take that into consideration. They only have a split second to really make things happen. QSS for Stixay, he's trying to keep himself safe as well. Could have put that in there as a third item as things are getting a little hairy on the map now.
Yeah, this is one of these games where I think CLG has a decent amount of confidence trying to go late. And they didn't want the full item Stixay with the Karma to help shield and make a hyper carry. But it's risky because it's not like 6-item Sivir is a slouch by any stretch of the imagination.
Definitely not. And Doublelift is one of those players that has had success also flashing in with Sivir. You know, keeping the enemy team on the run. When he's got a front line like Lissandra Nar, here we go though.
We've seen these plays before. Stixay at MSI was able to do it on the Caitlyn. This time completely locked down. They make sure he's the target because of the threat he can create and flash right into the structure. Unfortunate for Aphromoo and very fortunate for TSM.
And Darshan ulted there with Echo back to the original location before his teleport went off. So he left the area. The duo gets killed for CLG. They're not able to group up, and TSM are able to find the flank.
Nice scatter on Svenskeren, trying to get Smithy a safe passage out of here just in time. He buys an ult from Hanser as well before he gets out.
Really interesting fight there, though, because Stixay was up, and it almost looked like CLG was trying to bait TSM with high confidence in that fight, but they got destroyed. I can't wait to see that one again to see if the QSS timing was off or if Bjergsen did something. I know the Proto Belt Lissandra is something that is actually even higher burst than the normal Lissandra.
Right.
You can get those close-range Proto Belts off.
We'll see how it happens here.
Watch this. The teleports are going to be matching each other, but Stixay QSS is fairly early. Then the Braum stun kind of coming right after the knockup, and he's just unable to auto-attack for most of it. Bjergsen getting all of his damage off, and then after that happens, Echo has to ult backwards, and it just turns into disaster for CLG.
Bjergsen did ult there with the Lissandra ult.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So we QSS, I think.
Got that, and then he was like exhausted right after as well. Things just got harder for him. Yeah, the question is, though, with all of those down there, with a lot of things necessary for TSM to kill Stixay, while his flash and heal are down, he will have that CC cleanse for the next time. It may make him that much safer from out.
Yeah, watch it one more time. Stixay did have the instant QSS after the Bjergsen ultimate, but there was just much more CC to layer for TSM. And
yeah, too good, too quick. It made you think you use it on nothing.
Yeah,
those layers.
Didn't even see the ult.
Well, the real question is, can CLG actually find success even if they group up now, because those last few instances where TSM have been playing to the strengths of their team, you know, and their speed has earned them a turret, a Drake, and a kill, but now CLG are actually catching out Haunter.
Freeze.
Goodbye. That's you catch the Pokemon and send them back. It's too low level.
What do you mean? It jumped out. So
Haunter will not be turned into candy. Thank you very much.
28 minutes on the clock to feed him to his friends. 47,000 to 50K. TSM again find themselves that lead and continue to hold on to it. Counterlogic Gaming is looking for that end, looking to see if they can find a Fog of War scatter that zeroes somebody out with the extra power they have. And a bit different of a game here for Darshan this time. Not ahead of Ponser, almost 100 CS down at this point.
And you can see the results of the last fight have just completely turned the pressure around.
Good
Not
shot.
quite enough.
Oh. Patience holds the ult, holds the Zanyas. A lock gets used for safety, and after all that initiation, Xmithy goes back in. He doesn't have cask here. Bjergsen says, I'll give everybody time to come in with me. There's the Zanyas after. They pull the scatter from Huhi, so the crowd control may be down, but Bjergsen has now given himself up for the fight to happen, and it may be in CLG's favor as rest of TSM couldn't get as close as Bjergsen could. Darshan's left now as he gets himself over the wall with a bit of a hop, and he should be good to go. Harshan Haunter gets himself to safety. Darshan could not follow him.
Yeah, I think Darshan was trying to roll and then flash over that wall.
Right.
But he did not use his flash, did not get over the wall. So CLG, instead of chasing down a kill, they're trying to get the turret.
A really crazy fight so far from CLG, just sticking to it and getting the sustained DPS of Caitlyn out. But they've waited too long in the past. Bjergsen's teleport is up in 10 seconds when he revives, and this could be another fight if CLG stick around.
And they have to leave because Stixay's at half, Hui's at half, everybody low health bars here, and TSM will be willing to use one of those very deep wards. They have so many options on the map right now, and CLG do make the right call. They do back off. I have to say, one small mistake I saw in that fight, Huhi actually tries to get a stun here, and if you ever use your Syndra E and don't have a ball in front, it's going to be the next one. It's a long period of time where you lose power in the team fight.
Exactly. Watch it right here. He's tried to stun with a minion, but that's not how it works. He picked up a minion instead of a ball and didn't realize it.
So that's why they had to disengage here.
Yeah, the fight extends. Bjergsen tries to go in hard for a fight. Haunter did finish off a kill on the side, and here it's really just Stixay getting off sustained DPS. He trapped on top of the Zonias, which is why they were getting this. And I was very impressed by Haunter's jump over this wall. He hugs it really tightly, and then is actually able to hop that with Nard. That's a wall that's hard to flash sometimes. Yeah. The hop doesn't have the cheats that Flash does to be able to skip through a wall. He has to completely clear it. So I really thought Haunter was dead there, and it was going to be a 2-for-1 for CLG, but it ends up being a 1.
I did think Darshan was going to follow him over, too, and continue the chase, but not so for CLG. And they'll just take a little bit of gold, but TSM, again, get the objective afterwards.
On those Dargans. Goes down in their favor. That's going to be another 3 for TSM here. Elder Drake will be coming up for us next on the map, and definitely been a better game for CLG. TSM usually at least attempting or baiting Baron 25 minutes in the majority of their games, and it really hasn't even been an option for them. And CLG looks to kind of just create a wall of defense here to make sure Vision is not spreading into their jungle, and they're still able to stop this TSM lead. 4,000 gold. It's pretty strong in the hands of TSM.
And it's still going to be a really difficult game for CLG to come back into. They need Stixay to be safe for a very long portion of time in these fights, but his items aren't even where Doublelift's items are from a damage perspective. Doublelift is in the Super Saver zone, where if there is a congested team fight, he's going to be able to kill the whole team, on top of Haunter and Bjergsen being very healthy with their CS and itemization right now. So TSM is going to be able to be the ones baiting around the Baron area and forcing CLG into fights, and are in position to control this game. Yeah,
the objective control from TSM so far this series has been immaculate. CLG have actually not gotten a single Drake so far this series, last game and obviously this game as well. And TSM are putting down the vision to keep CLG honest here. It's very difficult for them to move outside of this sort of defensive semicircle they've got going.
Almost becomes the fact that TSM is happy to keep a small gold lead, and then just understands that will provide them benefit in fights as they come up against CLG. 35 minutes and then 40 minutes. A small gold lead is always going to have Doublelift stronger, somebody else stronger. Seems like that's all they have against CLG right now. CLG also themselves aren't making that many errors here.
Yeah, it is going to be, difficult for CLG to win the team fight here that's about to come up because of the positioning and the vision advantage that TSM have. But one thing that is really beneficial is if Syndra can get one of those pass-through stuns onto Double Lift. Because Double Lift, as we said, he's shouldering most of the onus of dealing all the damage for these late-game team fights on the Sivir. And okay, here we go. Some screams coming out, but no engagement. But yeah, the best thing about Syndra is that her stun can't be blocked by people except for a Braum. So it is going to be up to Biofrost trying to get in the way.
I do think CLG also has to be a little bit careful, though, of who he getting bursted out. No magic resist inherent in that build, and Bjergsen's burst is really substantial. So we know that stixxay and Huhi are going to have targets on their back. Bjergsen and Doublelift are going to be the targets that CLG is trying to get in on TSM. And I think we're going to be getting some relatively explosive team fights. So much of it could come down, though, if a team can get a pick.
CLG very ready. Bjergsen has actually bought an upgraded sweeper as well to make sure they have all the options to initiate when possible.
Yeah, he definitely needs to get a good flank off. Good thing for TSM is that Bjergsen has flash ready. A lot more kill pressure there when they do have that. CLG are going to rely on their extra range, try and get a little bit of poke down first before the engagement from TSM.
Another thing that's in TSM's favor here is just the split pushing of the Gnar. Like 100 CS up on Darshan.
Just gonna say that.
And even though he's not necessarily getting solo killed, it's never going to be a wave that's pushed in CLG's favor unless Hansur abandons.
He has a full extra tank item over Darshan in the team fights. So definitely will be massive. Plus he's first to level 18.
He's a big boy. Mid lane's really the only one that's on that next, and it might be Bjergsen or Huhi first. Level 3 ultimates for those damage dealers are pretty much there. stixxay just waiting on one more level for his Caitlyn. And TSM finally starting to encroach on CLG's side of the map, so it means they can finally move their vision forward.
So if we look for the next couple of steps, it's hard. Oh, okay. Well, here we go.
This is the step. The Baron is denied vision right now.
And the reason why TSM can't force anything at the turrets is they are short range. It's very difficult for them to force anything on turrets versus a Caitlyn and a Sivir. Okay, well, we're going to force something in the jungle here.
A little wallop.
TSM is trying to get CLG in the open so they can Sivir ult them and run them down. But with Mega Gnar down, that's a missed opportunity, so to speak. It was a pretty amazing set of vision control, though, with denied vision on the Baron and Mega Gnar, but they were unable to convert anything.
Yeah, if CLG actually have the chance to set up around an objective with the Caitlyn trap, that adds a lot to their teamfight presence.
This is one of those moments where it explodes. When teams start playing horizontally in mid lane, it's usually about to happen.
Look at those wards placed as TSM are pinging a bunch of different options here for teleports.
Basically, TSM is starting up the Baron. They're either going to take it, or if CLG checks, they're going to try and teleport in behind with Lissandra. This is the plan play for TSM. CLG has to stop it. They have to go now.
4,000 health on the Baron, 3,000, here comes
the fight.
Baron gets left out. Aphromu's going to be the focus here. He goes down in the end. Hunter's taking a lot of damage. They try to get to the back line. Bjergsen throws down the ult. And Xmithie and stixxay in a bad spot, but still able to deliver DPS. And that's why it's a bad spot. As soon as they jump on him, they have all the say in the world as to what happens and continues to happen in the fight.
The fight was set up by TSM for several minutes, and it was beautiful coordination from a wonderful team.
Call of the day as Baron is taken by TSM. 10-7 as we approach 30 minutes, and it seems like history repeats itself for TSM and the Baron.
Well, honestly, yeah, CLG were in a bad spot. As we said, they kind of were forced in this position, but they focused on Hansur. As we said, he has an extra tank item, and they can't get through him.
Yeah, and it's just the setup was so perfect for TSM. They didn't even take that much damage on the Baron. They denied the vision the entire time. We had already mentioned how Huhi was going to be vulnerable to Bjergsen's Lissandra. He gets pretty much obliterated by Bjergsen's Lissandra, and no one on CLG had a way of entering that fight properly. They couldn't have the setup because they were forced to get pulled into that spot.
Oh, you were talking about those dominoes, Kobe. They're falling real fast right now for CLG.
Yep.
Coming crashing down.
And that's all about TSM. With their objective control the entire series, now they have Elder Drake on top of the Baron, and they'll be looking to move inside CLG's base. This is the last stand for CLG. Set up your line of traps outside, hope for an overdive by TSM and some communication breakdowns during the dive. And hopefully for CLG, they can try and make a last stand. But for TSM, they are looking very, very strong right now, trying to make this series 2-0 in their favor.
Just look at that, the difference in the playstyle with Haunters now, Gnar, compared to what Darshan's was doing last game. Obviously, the teams as well helps to make that successful, but you see Haunter and Bjergsen, both 5 kills, those solo lanes, always coming forward for TSM. And it really helps everybody on the team be confident about their plays and to achieve results as such here in Game 2 versus CounterLogic Gaming. Pressure towards the mid lane as, like you said, Jat, the 1-3-1 is just tearing CLG apart and wearing them thin.
Yeah, and this split push is just going to continue right now. They have to be very careful who they send at Bjergsen. There's only just the QSS on Stixxay, so he's the one who can withstand it. Who he most likely can't withstand it, and TSM with the Elder Drake, you don't want to team fight him. With the Baron, you don't want to let him 1-3-1. What are you going to do? You'd have to get an amazing pick onto double if CLG want to stop this from working.
This is almost one of those times where you wish you had that Talia wall to create the fight you want. Be able to separate a huge fight that gives you Bjergsen and Haunter. But that is not the choice. You have to come up with something even more creative. And with TSM's vision all the way up to the base, CLG is going to have to do it from inside their own house. First inhibitor turret goes down. Mid lane wasn't even the focus, but still has minions crashing in with Bjergsen. And TSM are starting to turn the base to shambles.
Yeah, just the last 5 minutes by TSM have been so cleanly played, taking the game from a close affair to really just looking like they're going to be able to close it out.
Nope.
That's never going to work. You have to shield up.
Really something we've kind of questioned about teams when they get to this point. Yeah, they can play well throughout the game, but we see a lot of international level teams be able to close those games out when they get the aggression, and TSM is definitely starting to come into that light as a team that can use that advantage to end a game.
TSM have had such a good split. This is probably the best split that TSM has ever had. As they talked about, they had renewed focus after losing Spring Split to CounterLogic Gaming. And they put everything into working as hard as they possibly can for this split. They didn't take a break during MSI. They trained because they saw CLG get the glory of winning North American LCS and going to that international play. Now this for them is very sweet for TSM players and TSM fans trying to get some redemption against CLG.
And you get to see the results of the work, not only from the 17-1 record, actually being undefeated against every single team who's in the North American LCS playoffs, but just how cleanly they set up plays.
Yep. A lot of the times they can focus that around Haunter, or the bot lane, or the mid lane. The age-old question is, would double lift to Bjergsen work? Yeah, it does. It does. They aren't struck for power. Nobody's resources are depleted. They can play either way and give and take things to make each other better.
And while I have seen CLG come back from giant deficits bottled up inside their base, right now, TSM have 2 Guardian Angels plus the inhibitor down, not to mention the giant item lead that they have almost everyone capped out, and they're just going to run right through CLG's base right now.
They say draw. CLG says we'll keep guns in pocket for now, but they might start to fire back. Just getting them off the front doorstep. Looks like they hold the inhibitor, but still, once they have to focus on that bot wave, things are going to get bad.
Yeah, Double Lift actually was chunked a little bit in that engagement. TSM know that they don't need to take any risks, though. So if anyone like that gets chunked out in the back line, they can immediately just call it all off and regroup and wait for the wave to come back.
And we mentioned about their team composition. They're not the best at sieging up turrets. That's why they spend so much time setting up and baiting the Baron. If they don't get something somewhat safe here, they're going to go back, run the Baron play again 2 minutes from now.
That's Garen. Got the Guardian Angel, also has a Banshees to keep himself very, very tanky here. And you can see he only walks out with just about half health after being targeted by 4 members. Trap line goes down from Stixxay, and it's just about all they have before a fight has to happen here inside their base.
Yeah, their strength is pretty overwhelming here, 13,000 in. I don't necessarily know if they can get the inhibitor on this push, but it would be, as far as being able to force a Baron and force a fight in the open, that's more where they're going to have the strength.
Definitely playing it in a cautious manner here. TSM, they do got the extra Nexus turret kill, though. So that is open, plus the inhibitor's down. So many angles for TSM to threaten CLG.
And so relentless. Only now are the waves just pushing away from CLG's base. TSM had things set up for so long coming into that. Credit to CLG as well for holding off as much as they could, but TSM will be back, and it's only going to be harder.
Yeah, the trickiest part for TSM, if they decide to force the Baron instead of going and forcing the inhibitors again, is the fact that everyone's max item, and that means they don't have any slots for pink wards. So the type of vision denial they had the last time on CLG won't be as easy to set up this time.
First World League problems. I got too many items.
Too much gold.
We all have a whole item lead over our counterparts on CLG. But that, plus the Trap Queen, Caitlyn, STIXA lining it up in front of their base for the last defense.
Oh no.
It's not a problem if
they don't even need to teleport in. Bjergsen's behind them.
Oh, mission impossible from Bjergsen. The cleanse happens immediately. There's also McHale's for STIXA. He gets that as long as a heal from aphromoo, but he still goes down. There's too much front-end damage from TSM. A double kill for Double Lift as he comes up strong with the ricochets, and now they're on to Xmithie. They will finish that kill. The flash over from Double Lift to solidify and secure that fight for the team.
Yeah, and it only took for CLG to go out in the open before TSM could flank him once again.
Said that's where they were going to want the fight, kind of put the carrot on the stick and reel them out of their base, walk them out slowly, and then they attack. They set up the bushwhack. They come out strong again in game 2, and padding the scoreboard a little bit here as Darshan says, walk this way, not towards the Nexus, but TSM knows the focus, knows the priority, and look to game 3 as game point for CLG.
TSM now 1 game away from making the finals for a record 8 straight split. And they're looking pretty dominant along the way.
Yeah, this time it seems almost unstoppable. Whoever they meet in the finals, if they are to win, is going to have a tough task, as well as CLG, if they step up, are going to be a team that we have to say is, this can happen in any game for them.
Spoiler, it's Cloud9. That's who's waiting for everyone in the finals.
Oh no! Whoa!
Spoiled
Said you wouldn't
yesterday.
spoil. No, it's fine.
Honestly, though, yeah, TSM, they have had the best regular season split that the team's ever had, and it's impressive that they're not slowing down here. A lot of people have questions, with Immortals having a couple splits in a row where they had these amazing regular season performances and then fell off in playoffs.
Yeah.
TSM, they're looking like, they are all seasoned players here except for Biofrost, and they focus so hard on the mental aspect of League that they are going to keep it together when the pressure mounts.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see how CLG can try and fight back, because we know reverse sweeps are a possibility and have happened
Absolutely.
Really a lot.
All
in League
the
of
time.
Legends. Way more than you would expect, but it's going to be really tough for them because they are actually getting outmaneuvered in the mid and late game, where last split, if they were getting into games like that against TSM, it was CLG coming out on top.
Well, with all the game 5s happening recently, maybe we'll be blessed by the League gods with one more of those. For some more analysis of that game, let's head over to Dash and Friends.
Thank you, Riv. And